does winning 8-1 in the fashion they did mean more than if they squeak one out 3-2 in overtime to stay alive?
Well, I mean, you're staying alive.
Yeah.
Well, how I consider it, and I looked at it, I look at it the same way going into Tuesday's Game 5. It's best of one for the Edmonton Oilers. Like, you just have to, like, for the Florida Panthers, it's still best of 7. For the Oilers, it's best of 1. So they played really well on Saturday. You know, even when the game got to be 2-1 and it looked like Florida was shifting the game, grinding the game in their favor, you know, Edmonton shut the door, which is a good sign. And it's interesting because I always compare the Stanley Cup playoffs to match play golf. You know, like, you had a bad hole, okay, get on to the next hole. You only lost one hole, right? You haven't lost 7 strokes on your lead. It's one game. And now for the Florida Panthers, they lost 6-3 to the Tampa Bay Lightning in Game 4 in the first round, came back and closed out the series. The last time they lost before Saturday night, it was a 5-4 loss to the Rangers in the Eastern Conference Final. So they've shown they can rebound, and I think you have to. You're going to have games where you're not at your best, and certainly that was the case for the Florida Panthers. But now it becomes a case for the Edmonton Oilers of trying to just kind of put seeds of doubt.
Yeah.
Seeds of doubt. I don't think that the Florida Panthers are doubting themselves now. But the Edmonton Oilers win Game 5, and the seeds of doubt will start to sprout.
Well, that's good. I love rhyming. That was great. The seeds of doubt start to sprout. I like that.
That's a 50 Cent lyric.
Yeah, it probably is. I'll have to look it up. Craig, like, so if you're like, for me, the biggest thing for the Oilers here is that it's like when you're fighting somebody and you're like, oh, he can bleed. He is human. Like with Bobrovsky, like they must know now. Okay, like, we can do this. He's not unbeatable. And I think when you have the top end talent that the Oilers do have, that confidence can probably carry you quite a ways.
There's no question. And that is something that I think is significant for the Edmonton Oilers. And you think about it now, who had this on the bingo card? First 3 goals of the game. Janmark, Henrique, and Holloway. You know, like, and that third line, I'll tell you, Connor Brown was outstanding in the game, but, you know, that third line really gave them real good, strong play. And then obviously what McDavid does is special. I mean, you're sitting there thinking, like, you're in the building on Saturday night and you're watching the game and you're thinking, like, I just saw history. I just watched a record that you really, there's no way anybody thought, I certainly didn't, that Wayne Gretzky's playoff record for assists in a single year could be broken, and you're sitting there watching that unfold. So it was quite brilliant by the Edmonton Oilers, but you're right. You're now looking at Bobrovsky not as this kind of mirage of, like, what do we got to do to beat them? You put 8 behind them, you put 5 behind them, and it was who did it. It wasn't just McDavid scoring. It was other players going, hey, we can beat them too.
Craig, happy belated Father's Day, by the way. I just wanted to pass that off to you there.
That's nice.
But I also wanted, we knew, we joke sometimes, oh, this is a must-win. That was a must-win. You're down 3-0. Well, we obviously know that. Shania Twain's in town. The city's going absolutely nuts. I think for the Oilers, too, and having that home ice is more important than, say, the Florida Panthers, arguably, and American fans can debate me on that, but I mean, we all knew what the Oilers had to do that game, and they went out and they did it. They chased, all these things. Connor got on the sheet again. We talk about the assist marker. The depth has been shining through. I guess the question would be now, going back for this Game 5, what are they going to specifically have to do within their game in terms of getting this result? Again, I'm not too worried about the atmosphere there. I think you can probably check that box off. I don't think the Oilers are too scared of playing with their backs. Their backs are against the wall. That's the DNA of this team. So I think they're walking into a pretty good situation on the road. But what will they have to do? Either lineups, X's and O's to kind of get this one over the line again, send it back home. What do you think the storyline will be heading into Game 5 and ultimately heading out if the Oilers do get a dub?
Yeah, and I want to just add to the crowd too in a minute, though. Answering your question first, you think about the first 2 periods of Game 1 and the way the Edmonton Oilers stretched the ice and were able to create a lot of opportunities for themselves. They did exactly that in Game 4. They really stretched the ice and they really opened up opportunities. And for the Florida Panthers, they were not able to close the ice. I think about period 3 of Game 1, all the way through Game 2, all the way through Game 3. they shrunk that ice on the Edmonton Oilers. They really closed it on them. Well, the Edmonton Oilers were able to open the ice. They were able to open up. They were getting to the puck quick. They were moving the puck quick, and they were moving the Florida players off the blue line so they couldn't forecheck. They were not able to get to the neutral zone. And I think that became a real key for the Edmonton Oilers. I think the extra day helps the Edmonton Oilers now. If you have to come right back and play another game on a Monday night after playing Saturday and traveling, I think the extra day helps them keep their legs. And certainly, the third line that was composed, I thought was really good. Putting Holloway with Leon Draisaitl, I thought was another masterful stroke by Chris Knobloch. So the speed, it's not just about, hey, you have a game plan, but they use their speed and they use their quickness to open up the ice for the Florida Panthers. That, to me, is your path. That, to me, is what you have to execute. And if they can do that, they're going to have a chance to get some opportunities. And more than you're taking away a big strength of the Florida Panthers. That's what you're trying to do. Are you going to eliminate it? No. But what you're trying to do is just keep them back on their heels a little bit. When it comes to the crowd, and we've all been lucky. We've been a part of great crowds all around sport at different times. But I think there's only one equal to the Edmonton Oilers when it comes to crowd, and that's the Montreal Canadiens. And the reason I say that is because when you get into the Edmonton building or the Montreal building, it comes from the soul. It's something that you feel like every single fan has this unbelievable heartbeat for their Edmonton Oilers, and only the Montreal Canadiens. I know there's loud buildings. I know there's all kinds of things, but to me, Edmonton and Montreal, that noise, that passion, it comes right from the soul. I think that's what makes it so special.
Boy, Canucks fans are going to hate you, Craig.
Yeah, well, they can hate me all they want. That building in Edmonton was sold out for 10 straight years when that team was terrible.
Yeah.
Not the case in Vancouver. So the Vancouver fans can hate me all they want. They don't have the same soul as the Edmonton fans or the Montreal fans. That's facts.
Craig Button with us on the show this morning, spitting these hot takes. I love it. Hey, okay, so Matthew Tkachuk, so far in this Stanley Cup Final, he's got 1 assist. He's -3. He obviously is doing Tkachuk-type things for sure, but when's the production come? What are you seeing in his game right now, Craig? I'm curious.
It's funny you say he's doing Tkachuk. Other than kind of rabbit punching Connor McDavid on Saturday night. And what I loved about that, Connor McDavid was laughing. He was smiling. Nice shot. I think Matthew Tkachuk has been MIA. I don't think he's been very good at all. In fact, I think he's been poor. He hasn't had any agitation in this game. He hasn't had any friction. He hasn't got under the skin of opponents, and the productivity has been there. 4 games, unimpressed with Matthew Tkachuk. Matthew Tkachuk, and bottom line is, if they can get some more play from Matthew Tkachuk, I think they improve their chances. For me, and it goes back. It's 6 straight games I've watched this from Matthew Tkachuk now. 6 straight games. The last 2 versus the New York Rangers, and these 4 versus Edmonton. I think he's been a real weak link for the Florida Panthers. So, what's your DNA? What's your identity? Play to it, and I don't think Matthew Tkachuk has done that.
Yeah, since Game 4, since Game 3, he scored 3 goals in the first 3 games of the playoffs. Since then, he has just 2 goals for the Florida Panthers. So you're right. It goes back a little bit further than just this series. Hey, kind of lost in the whole shuffle of the Oilers putting up 8 and chasing Bobrovsky was what I thought was a pretty good game from Stuart Skinner. And I think that's important moving forward in this series as well.
I don't think. I don't know. It feels like Stuart Skinner is always going to be a lightning rod for some reason.
Oh yeah, of course.
I've said this about Stuart Skinner for a while now. All you're asking, Stuart Skinner, just do what you're capable of. You don't have to give me any more. Just don't give me less. And I think he's given such a great account of himself. I think he's been really strong in the net. I think he's been steady. I think he's been confident. And certainly, even when we go back to games 4 and 5 against the Vancouver series, when Pickard went into the net, sometimes you need a reset. Chris Knobloch had a feel for that, had his finger on the pulse of it, and it's exactly what occurred for Stuart Skinner and for the Edmonton Oilers. But I think he's given them really good, solid play in the net. Listen, we just talked about Matthew Tkachuk, like, a superstar, a player that's expected to do a lot more. There's a guy that hasn't done very much. And to me, Stuart Skinner has given a great account of himself, and a big reason why the Edmonton Oilers have won 13 games in the playoffs, even though he doesn't have all 13 wins. He only has 12 of those.
Craig, as always, man, we really appreciate it. Thanks a lot, and we'll talk to you next week. And it'll be fun one way or the other.
Yeah, it will be. I mean, the next Tuesday, unless you switch me to Sunday or
Thursday,
the series will be over.
I could see a world where I'm texting you on Thursday being like, hey, MJ's busy Friday. Can you join us? So, yeah, we'll see what happens.
Anytime you need.
Craig, as always, man, appreciate it. Talk to you soon, bud.